I don't know why I started recording and then walked out of the room. I am always cold, like hands and feet, absolute ice to the point where it is just my natural accepted state. I don't really do a whole lot to rectify the issue. I learned from a very young age that physical discomfort is synonymous with existence, and we don't have time to unpack all of that. So instead, how about I just do something about it today? Here's the thing about winter in Southern California. It's never that cold, which again, doesn't matter much for my personal body because I'm cold in the heat of summer. But you run into those weeks and months where in the morning it is pretty decently chilly. Like, it's not just jacket weather, it is full-on coat weather. But the sun here does a great job. It does amazing work. It works like it's getting a performance report at the end of the day. So by noon, possibly like 2 o'clock at the latest, it'll be a drastically different temperature. No coats or jackets required. You could go tanning. And then night falls, and we're back to coats. So as someone who doesn't like to change clothes multiple times a day, I'm in need of a good layer. I'd love to just cozy up in a blanket during these early and late hours, but I'm always moving around, sort of. I'm mostly sitting still, but I'm always using my hands, and therefore my arms. So I need a Snuggie. Bye. Are those still being sold? Doesn't matter. Why would I buy something made of fabric when I have a closet full of fabric and a sewing machine at my disposal? What do you think about that? Check out this enormous piece of fuzzy warm material. It's delightful. I found it at Remainders, immediately snapped all of it up because my brain said blanket robe. I'm not just gonna do a square with sleeves in it though. We're going a little bit more sophisticated here. Where's my coffee? Hello, coffee? I'm actually gonna utilize my favorite pattern again. Wow! This makes version like 16 or something. I've lost count. I feel like you're too dark. I'm gonna lighten up on the shaping of the dress, less curvy up top, but actually more curvy down bottom. I want a fuller skirt for more blanket-like behavior. And then I'm gonna have it open in the front like a robe. I'm gonna put kind of just wide sleeves on it that can be easily rolled up to be out of the way. And then perhaps surprisingly, I'm not gonna put a hood on it because like a Snuggie, I want it to be comfortable to be worn in either direction, on front or back. So if I'm sitting in my chair editing, I can put it on this way. Yeah, this should be super easy. So easy that I'm kind of wondering how it's gonna be a full video. But you know me, I always have thoughts to chat about or something I wanna bake, or 5 more ideas that I decide to do all at the same time, so video length is not a concern to me. Let's cut it out. The back piece is the only one going on the fold in this rendition, and then I basically just laid it on a diagonal, so the neckline is about the same as usual, but it'll be way wider through the waist and hips, and of course, that hemline will be potentially massive. The front piece, I'll do the same. Also smoothing out some of the curves over the bust because it's not supposed to be a form-fitting dress anymore. I added several inches to the center so there will be an overlap and then sliced it down the middle so the robe can open. Sort of the same with the side pieces, just a little less curvy up top and then some extra inches starting around the waist and going all the way down into the hem. All I need is the sleeves and then we can get sewing. But first, I said baking, so now I want to bake. I'm in the mood to make bread, and I was thinking monkey bread because that has been on my list, but for some reason we have a ridiculous number of sweets and sugary snacks in the house right now, possibly because it's holiday season and they're hard to resist. So I don't think a super sugary bread is a great idea. A savory bread would be better. I'm not sure what kind yet, I will figure that out, but I have a crap ton of garlic right now, so I think I'm gonna start by making garlic confit, and then I can figure out how to get that into a bread later. I started by putting a pot of water on to boil because I saw a trick for peeling garlic the other day that I've never tried before. You just dump them in some hot water briefly to loosen the skins. Gonna try it, why not? But first, I have to get all the cloves separated. Apparently a dangerous business since they somehow made me bleed. Am I a vampire? Is garlic a danger to me? Also, I found a couple sprouting cloves, so I'ma set those guys aside. I don't think the water has to be fresh off of boiling. The hottest water from the sink would probably work fine, but I figured why not go big while at home? Do you find the phrase go big or go home as ridiculous as I do? I mean, first of all, I'd love to go home. Pretty much always. Don't tempt me with the option to go home. But also, I'm most comfortable going big while at home, aren't you? Anyway, this wasn't some miracle solution. The skins didn't just fall off magically. You still have to stand there and peel them one by one. But they did peel away much easier than normal. But this still took me like almost an hour. So much garlic. Yay. Now we submerge them in olive oil. Seriously, they have to be fully covered so they don't burn. Don't worry though, I'm not wasting olive oil here. I'm just making garlic olive oil, which we will use in everything because garlic is the universal spice in this household. And now they go in the oven at 250 Fahrenheit for 2 hours. And I stuck my little growing garlics in a bit of water because I don't want to go into the garage for potting soil right now. And we're back to the blanket robe. Just kidding, I immediately wandered off to do other things for the entirety of those 2 hours. So now the garlic is done, huzzah! That is stunning. Now we're back to the blanket robe for real, and it took me less time to sew all those pieces together than it did for me to peel all that garlic.
Baby, I love the smell of garlic.
Good, because it's gonna smell like that for a long time. You know the cozy vibes are gonna be, as the kids say, immaculate, when it already feels like a blanket while you're sewing it together. Ended up with this. It's cozy, it's swooshy, it can be worn front to back as I intended. I knew the sleeves would be too short because I wanted to use a chunk of fabric that I had left over rather than cutting into the remaining chunk of fabric, you know? So I'm just gonna add a big cuff onto the end. But first, gonna go make some dough. After much debating, I decided to make some focaccia using this recipe. That way I can use both the confit garlic and that incredible garlic oil. Now, I'm always a little suspicious of lazy or no-need bread recipes, cause the glutens, y'all, how are they developing? But I have made focaccia several times before, I believe one time fairly successfully, so it seems like a safe-ish one to try. Instead of kneading, you do a bunch of folding inward on the dough and then 30-minute bouts of rest. So while that rests for the first time, I'm back to the robe. Sorry, bud. Did mommy scare you? Come here. Come here, my baby. Come here. No, you just want pets and cuddles? Oh, my sweet potato. You're such a sweet potato. Folded the front edges over and stitched them down, and then I got the large cuffs onto the sleeves, which makes them long enough and easy to fold up when I want them shorter and out of the way. Everybody wants to be a cat, because a cat's the only cat who knows where it's at. I always forget to eat cheese until I eat cheese, and then my cheese is so good.
Yeah.
I don't know how good this is gonna be. I think it'll be fine. It occurred to me at this moment that I completely forgot about pockets. What about the pockets? Pockets. I guess because I wasn't thinking of this as a normal piece of clothing, they just burrowed down in my brain and refused to remind me of their necessary presence. Not to worry though, it'll just take a bit of seam ripping and pockets will be added. While I'm at the cutting table, I also made a big binding strip for the neckline, so it'll almost be like a standing collar or a turtleneck, just enough to keep the throat warm without constricting. And then the bread gets smashed into a pan, topped with those garlic cloves, salted by Matt, I oversalted the last one I made, and baked. I totally forgot to do the steam thing in the oven that makes a good crust, so whoopsies, but oh my god, this still tasted amazing. And we destroyed half of it while making dinner. Not for dinner, before dinner. Alrighty y'all, so last night I added the collar, I guess you could call it, the neck binding. It's like halfway between those two things. This also works a lot better over something that doesn't have sleeves, which is kind of my whole point, is that I want to wear cooler clothes for the afternoon and be able to throw this on top in the morning or in the evening when I'm freezing. Go somewhere, Mike. I really like it. I've kind of been thinking that this pattern, my favorite dress pattern, would make an absolutely gorgeous coat. I just don't have much reason to make a coat. But I feel like this proves it in the proper fabric and with the proper, you know, shaping and everything of the collar and the front, because you would kind of have to do that yourself. Really good coat. So I do still need to get my pockets in. I think I've decided to do normal like inseam pockets on the front here, but then on this back section do this kind of pocket, patch pockets I guess you would call them, because that's what they are, so that if I'm wearing it like a Snuggie in the front, I have pockets right here to also put my hands or random stuff in. And then I also realized that I just kind of need a sash for this. There's really a good amount of overlap, but I think if I'm just wearing it, I don't know, it kind of sticks to itself, which is handy. Oh, it might just be sticking on the pin that's in it. Ha! It needs a sash. But I'm always really annoyed with sashes on robes because they're not attached and they always like shift, so then there's tons on one side and only a little bit here, or they just disappear altogether. So because this is fitted and you don't really need the sash to go all the way around, I think I'm gonna sew in a sash in the inseams, in the side seams. That way it cannot move around and it cannot be lost, and then it'll just tie in the front like this. This is looking pretty coat-ish, which I'm actually happy about. It feels like a blanket, but it looks more like a coat, because I would like to be able to throw this on in the morning while I'm walking the puppy around the neighborhood and not look like I'm wearing a blanket or a Snuggie or a robe. And I think I'm achieving that more than I expected to, so grand. So for starters, I am gonna have to do some seam ripping. But I was so good this time, because I think I'm gonna add top stitching to this eventually, but I was like, no. You will add that at the very end. Do not top stitch anything. So there shouldn't be as much to seam rip. Oh, my nose is running. It's that time of year when my eyes are dry and my nose is always wet. Anyone else love dry season? I hate putting on lotion, but the feeling of dry hands is worse. This is always the balance when you have sensory issues. It's like, which sensory issue is more annoying? So in the winter I will put on lotion, but I have such dry eyes just all the time for whatever reason. An eye doctor told me one time that for the average person, when you blink, it's supposed to take, if I recall correctly, she said 10 seconds for like the effect of the blinking to fade away, like you're re-wetting your eyes, and it's supposed to take like 10 seconds for that to dissipate. And she said mine was dissipating in 2 seconds, so that's great. But yeah, when we get to these really dry seasons, I'll often just kind of wake up with my eyes already burning a little bit, and it just doesn't go away. That's just there all day. Anyway, I'm avoiding seam ripping by just sitting here and chatting, and you know we can't have that, so bye-bye, Lav Mike. Went ahead and cut out the sashes first, which I could mostly get out of my scraps, so huzzah for that, and then I turned on some videos and went to work shredding the robe. I mean, not really, but that's kind of what it looks like I did, doesn't it? It was easiest to lay the robe out on the big table like this and pin the sashes and pockets into place, then run to the sewing room, do some stitching, and come back to the table for more pinning and placement. Of course, there were also pit stops for puppy cuddles. What you doing? Hello? Are you so pretty? Ah. Big sneeze. I often hear people say not to sew at night or late in the evening or whatever, because that's when they're most likely to make mistakes, and I don't really do that naturally, because I'm a morning person and I don't like working when it's dark outside, which makes 4 p.m. sunsets in the winter an absolute blast for my brain. But there are just like random chunks of time scattered throughout any random day when I start making a bunch of mistakes, or the machine starts messing up, or general spattering of chaos settles over the room like a fine dust. This was one of those times. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That was on me. Don't sew with your presser foot raised, y'all. It's not how you're supposed to do it. Okay. That was bad. Oh dear. Oh dear. Lord. Don't worry about me, everything is just going wrong. Nope. Took a break to go to the farmer's market though, and then managed to get everything sewn closed again with fewer mistakes. Alrighty y'all, we've got sash. We've got pockets. And more pockets. I just need to add a hem, and I think I am gonna do all of the top stitching that I've been putting off until I knew I wouldn't have to rip it out. But I think it'll just make the whole thing a little sturdier and it'll make it last longer. So top stitching, hem, and then it's done. Let's take a look. It is chilly outside today, like I saw my breath in the air at one point. That's always unexpected. Why is there a fur in my coffee? Please hold. But y'all, this was a fabulous idea. I feel like those old images of Father Christmas. Like when he used to have like the long robes. I don't know, it kind of feels like that. I guess there's like a slightly Victorian feeling to this in my head, although I don't think that's accurate whatsoever. I have decided to reward myself with a puzzle because this is the last video before something I'll tell you about next week. Basically, it was my last project for a video for this year, yeah? In case you didn't know, what's on the table? I film all of my content a month in advance, so it's not actually my last project of the year, but it's the last project that you will be seeing in 2024. Next one, 2025. Oh, that was loud. So I'm gonna celebrate. I'm gonna allow myself the joy of doing a puzzle. If you have been watching the second channel, you will know that I have recently discovered I really like puzzles, but I get so like immediately focused on them that I can't just do one at random. I have to make sure that I have time to do one. So I'm gonna give myself the time right now. It's another of the world of puzzles. Focus on Mary. I love these. I have 3 now. I got the Shakespeare one too, and they're gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, this guy's artwork, I just absolutely love it. His style is just stunning to me, and then of course I love that they're book related. Anyway, we're not sticking around for this. You aren't sticking around for this. This is the end of the video. Ooh. You know what's gonna be perfect for my dry and burning eyes right now? Intensely staring at puzzle pieces. Yay! But yeah, this was a fabulous choice. The blanket robe. Highly recommend just getting, like, this is more of a sweatshirt fleece because it's got the different texture on the inside. But even if you just got a regular fleece, minky, I think is that one with the dots in it, any like blanket material, and then make yourself a big ass robe out of it. It just feels fabulous. I feel like a princess. Once again, princess seam dresses, man, they were well named. Why were they named that? I don't know. But they're very accurate. Every princess seam dress I make, or in this case, coat/robe. It's more coat-like than I thought it would be, quite honestly, which I suppose I should have expected, but I didn't expect. No cheating. I must separate all of the ones that are stuck together before I even start. But yeah, I definitely feel like I can stroll around the neighborhood in this in the cold mornings with the puppy, and people will still think it's odd because it's not exactly a normal thing to wear. But I stroll around the neighborhood wearing a lot of, you know, fairly abnormal fashion. It's just the difference of like abnormal fashion versus straight up, these are my pajamas. I don't think anyone would really give me a second glance if I strolled around our neighborhood in my pajamas, quite honestly. Except I sleep naked, so I don't have pajamas, and I would definitely get second glances at that. Ooh, because the sleeves are tighter at the top, you can push up the sleeves and they stay pretty well. That's fabulous. Want some puzzle ASMR? Anyway, blanket robes, fashionable snuggies. I give them a big old heck yes. I'ma go work a puzzle now. I'ma stay and work a puzzle now. I'm not going anywhere. Oh, I wanted to show you the garlic. Ah, look at this. Let me come closer. No focus. All right, so I put these in here, what, 2 days ago? And they had like this high of sprout and this high of sprouts. So not only have they sprouted, but they did not have any, what are those called? Roots? They didn't have any roots whatsoever. So all of those roots and like tripling in sprout height has happened literally from just 2 days of being in a little bit of water. So highly recommend growing some garlic in your kitchen. I should probably transfer them to dirt soon-ish, but I'm gonna give them, I think, a couple more days in the water. Anyway, bye for real now. I'll see you next week. Finished the puzzle, in case anyone was wondering. This one was a lot harder than the Jane Austen one. There were a lot of neutrals and a lot of repeating motifs, like so many of the same exact flowers scattered all over the entire thing. Still finished it in 2 days though. In the goo. So as someone who doesn't why can I hear somebody walking by our house so loudly? The fridge is making weird noises.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. Sorry, I'm filming myself staring at my phone for 10 flat minutes, straight minutes. My undies are falling off. Why?